Please.
Thank you, Acting President, and I'm pleased to rise today to speak on the Cemeteries and Crematoria Amendment Bill 2021. And it's been a long time coming, this bill, and I think there was recommendations for work like this to be done, but it was the work of Karen Williams' family that finally made this happen. And I join with all the previous speakers in sending my sincerest condolences to that family and my gratitude in their work and their advocacy in this area to now change this law as it should be, and to protect people from further harm, pain and suffering that's caused by the result of the exercise of rights of interment. As we have it now, in the case of a burial in a public cemetery, the Act and regulations stipulate that the right of the interment holder, which is usually the person who paid for the plot, has controls over the activities of the plot, relating to the plot, including what's written on the headstone, what type of headstone, and obviously the burial. This amendment changes that. This amendment protects families of victims of fatal crime, ensuring their loved ones can be released from interment when the perpetrator oversees the remains and burial arrangements. My office spoke to the Cemeteries and Crematoria Association of Victoria, and they tell me they were very involved in the drafting of this legislation and are very strong supporters of this legislation. We spoke to Rita Batira at Safe Steps about this, and she's also applauded the amendments and noted that they were just common sense change. We have over 550 cemeteries in Victoria. And as we've heard from many people that, they can be seen as a place of gloom or of sadness, but really they are a place where people can go and reflect. They can go and think about loved ones who have died, consider the wonderful lives that they had, and the fond memories that they have of those people. They're often a place of sort of social pilgrimage even. They're historical. They're social records that hold not only personal meaning for loved ones, but also for all of us. They're places where people can move through grief and hopefully find a modicum of peace. But as speakers have said today, in 2020, more than one woman a week was murdered by their intimate partner. And in some cases, the offending partner was also the overseer of the victim's remains and burial arrangements. And this must just be so painful for those families that have had to go through that. And this was the case for Karen Williams. So it was her family that stood up to fight for justice. And as I mentioned, they have been the impetus for these amendments. I mean, in Karen's case, her murderer continued to try and control her life even after her life had ended, even after he had murdered her. He admitted to killing her, but he refused to say why or how, and still refuses today. Karen was 47. She lived in Melbourne. She was a fashion designer. She was a mother and a daughter to Sarah. She was a sister to Stephen. She was a friend, and she was murdered. Her husband has been jailed, and the time served has been extended. But he insisted that on her gravestone it read, "A loving wife." He was destined to be buried next to her. I don't think I can even imagine how that would feel. And I note I was actually as I often do, because I find it a beautiful place, I was walking through Melbourne Central Cemetery the other day with my niece, and I was telling her about this piece of legislation. And as we were walking through and we saw the many graves with husbands and wives buried together, I couldn't help wonder how many of those were in this situation when, you know, one woman every week or every 10 days is being murdered by her husband or her partner. How many of those people buried in that cemetery were also victims of family violence, were also victims of murder by their husbands, and it really sort of it struck me how painful that must have been for those families if that had occurred, to be going to grieve for their mother and note that the tormentor of their mother is buried next to them. So this bill is much needed, and I very much welcome this bill. The Reason Party welcomes this. We're very grateful that it's backdated to 2005, so that some of those victims will also be able to have some say about where they're buried, and, you know, just torturously what is on those gravestones. You know, Safe Steps reported that they've seen a 27% increase in women and children accessing their services since the first COVID lockdown. Now, when they're accessing their services, these are women calling from a public phone because they are fearful for their lives. This is when women are at their most dangerous. And as I think Ms Shing pointed out, and some of the other contributors, they are literally at the most dangerous part of their life, because it is when they leave that is when they are likely to be killed. Every day, 100 women and children in Victoria are placed into crisis accommodation. Quite often it has to be very secret accommodation. It has to be miles, if not towns, away from the perpetrator, so that they can feel some level of safety. So I'm pleased that this bill is before this House. I'm pleased that this bill has been backdated. We still have a lot to do, but this is one more aspect where we can address those coercive controls that perpetrators have on their victims. And again, as my heart goes out to the Williams family, I commend this bill.